Hello, Samuel Butcher here. I'm popping in again because I've now been summarily dismissed from, I think, all of the various CUNY chats, and I wanted to take a moment to respond to the fire email from yesterday that was a response to my initial video, that was a response to a secret petition, that was a response to an open letter, that was a response to an open petition. If you're having trouble following along, I've created this helpful diagram of the communication train. Okay, let's see if we can knock this out in under 5 minutes. The fire letter, for those of you who didn't read it, is link 1 below. I'm a big believer in putting links to the things I source so people can go and read for themselves and make up their own minds about something, rather than characterizing it for them and forcing them to rely on my subjective pigeonholing. But that's just me. The fire letter criticizes my message, criticizes Dean Capelong for forwarding my initial message when I asked him, and states that I caused, quote, immense stress and unnecessary fear, end quote, to unspecified students in unspecified ways, and that I should sit down and shut up. I'm sure there are some people who agree with their points. I responded to the fire email directly, but am yet to hear back. That email is linked 2. I think I asked pretty fair questions in a pretty fair way. I don't much mind what Fire has to say about me, but then again, as Fire notes, I am angry and bizarrely paranoid. But I think you would be too if you knew what I did. Check it. The Illuminati runs Nabisco, and Nabisco is owned by Modelo's International, and that's an anagram for a lone normalized intent. Coincidence? Probably. And I don't actually like Oreos. What was I talking about? Oreos. Right. So let's say the fire letter is an Oreo cookie, 2 wafer-thin slabs of crumbly dough with a creamy center of disingenuous mischaracterization. Let's dunk our cookie into the milk of human kindness and see what we got. The only things I actually want to address are these: my response to student concerns and doxing. To read Fire's letter, you'd be forgiven for thinking I live here, and that when students came to me with privacy concerns, I responded with all the civility of Pharaoh listening to Moses. That's not the case. On Monday morning, having received no complaints from anyone, I received an email from a student asking their name be removed from the online fire petition because they weren't comfortable with their name being published outside of CUNY. I said, of course, I understand. I'll put name withheld and thank you for taking the time to email me. About 15 minutes later, another student emailed me and detailed the reasons they thought having the full list of signatories could be potentially harmful. I thought they raised some reasonable points, so I removed the list and added a note on my site to explain. 15 minutes after that, I received an email from a fire organizer suggesting an edit to my note. They also made a very reasonable point, so I happily made the change. From the first email to the site as it stands now, an hour and 10 minutes. So when Fire says, quote, although we contacted the administration with these safety concerns, it is only after several students contacted Samuel Butcher themselves that he chose to remove the names from his website, end quote, I think they're being intentionally misleading. As to doxing, I take doxing and online privacy very seriously. When I set up my site, I blocked all IP addresses from the Department of Homeland Security and all known IP addresses from ICE and CBP. Each time I made a change to my site, I completely migrated the content, deleting the original from my server and clearing my server's cache. I was also using an HD access rule to force reloads for browsers. That's just to say I was not cavalier in my approach. If people are concerned about online privacy, online safety, and petitions, which I think they should be, I think it's worth noting that Google Forms are not private. Google stores everything from a Google form or a Google Doc, and certain phrases can trigger an automatic Google audit. Google will turn over your information to law enforcement. Don't believe me? Here's Google's privacy page. It's link 3. And it can happen a lot. This is from Google's transparency report, which will be link 4, and it's just information given over to FISA courts, FISA being those secret courts with secret indictments JFK was so against. So, to everyone at CUNY, if you are concerned about privacy and safety when it comes to petition, I strongly encourage you. Don't use Google Forms. They are easy to access and use, sure, but the cost is just too high. Just to say that there are lots of options that won't hand over your information to law enforcement. Anyway, to the title of the video. I think lost in this discussion about how much of a raging racist and xenophobe I am is the important point. What we as a student body and as a law school can do to make change in the way ICE, CBP, and DHS use tools from groups like Thomson Reuters and RELX to enact injustice. To that end, to the organizers of FIRE, I challenge you to a debate. I'm sure we can agree on basic rules, 10 minutes for opening statements, 5 minutes for rebuttal, so on and so forth. Whatever works for you, I'm happy to accommodate. You pick the moderator, I'll show up. So what do you say, FIRE? As the foundation for immigrant and refugee empowerment, you'd be able to directly empower at least one immigrant. Me. This is a discussion worth having. So FIRE, let's have it.